Welcome to Change and Thrive. I'm your host, Dr. Wendy Heckelman, founder and CEO of WLH Consulting and Learning Solutions. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to hit the notification bell. That way, you'll never miss an episode. During this past March, in honor of Women's History Month, we created a spotlight series on those women that have changed and thrived throughout 2020, and they shared how they pivoted and brought forth lessons learned to apply to 2021. Today, I would like to briefly recap those lessons learned in the context of the world events, the ongoing pandemic, the continued push for social justice, and the loss of nearly 4 million women to the workforce, as well as our pharmaceutical and life sciences companies' response to those world challenges. As we approach April 1st, the world is slowly re-emerging from a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic with 3 vaccines on the market and the beginnings of a new normal. Organizations are busy reimagining work and implementing return-to-work policies. As our clients start this transformational work, we need to reflect and bring forward key leadership lessons. When we interviewed Kelly Rodriguez, chair of the HBA Southeast region, she discussed 2 key learnings: the importance of empathetic leadership and adapting to allow people, and in particular women, to have flexibility with balancing the demands of work and home life. Empathetic leadership rose above the swirl and will remain a critical leadership competency.
What were some of the challenges that you faced both personally and professionally?
Last year was one for the record books. I think we have heard so many different stories from so many different individuals. Personally, I just thought that this was just going to go away. I think all of us did in the beginning of 2020. We just kept on marching forward with HBA, our jobs. And then we realized that we needed to huddle together. And I think all of us brought our friends and families closer than they've ever been before, virtually setting up, Zooms and things like that. But the one thing that I reflected on, I remember early on, is it was bringing back memories of 9/11 for me. At that horrible juncture, Americans became very close. And I saw that happen in our community here where we live, but my professional community. And I think that is what helped me, adapt and overcome. I had so many people to be able to lean on. And I'm one of these people that don't want to be able to reach out to other people. One thing I remember reaching out to you and saying, oh my God, I came back, the stores are just empty. I can't find any meat or whatever. And you hooked me up and we had a distant meat swap in our driveway. But yeah, just these crazy things that we just didn't think that would happen here in the United States happened. And I think we all came together to find solutions.
Janet Losberg, who was the Senior VP of Janssen and was in charge of ensuring the continuity of clinical trials and led her organization of 550 people through a transformation, further illuminated that leaders needed to give employees the flexibility to manage their own work days while ensuring their goals were met. She also discussed the need to steady and take care of yourself personally in order to be there for your employees.
What lessons learned have you had that you think are important to apply into 2021 and beyond?
Resilience. Resilience was always important, Wendy, but resilience to get through something like this unprecedented pandemic and things just coming at you all the time. This ability to be resilient, to stay above it. My father used to quote the poem by Rudyard Kipling called If. And always through my whole childhood. And this was one of those things where it kept running through my mind, both as a leader, but also as a mother and as a female in the workplace. The first line of it is something like, keep your head above you when everybody else is losing theirs, and it just kept running through my mind. There's all this fear, there's all this anxiety, there's so much going on. And, people are just being bombarded by everything, and being able to sort of keep your North Star and figure out when your resilience is running low and see if you can find a way to bring it back up and to really help keep your balance and try to keep the high road, to keep yourself, focused, I think is something I relearned to a whole new level here, just given the challenges. I think the other thing is that, like, I've seen a lot of companies and I've seen a lot of people making decisions based on fear and based on anxiety about what might happen in the future, as opposed to just taking some time and letting it ride out a little bit. One example that I have around that is there were a lot of companies that made a decision to hold all their clinical trials during this COVID pandemic and not go forward with them. The company that I was working with didn't make that decision. They made the decision to, let's continue to support it the best we can. Let's stay resilient and agile and look at it trial by trial by trial. And as a result, we ended up with, a lot of our trials actually continuing, because the cancer patients or the other patients that don't have COVID, but those patients are still really important, and they're still very real diseases, and they're still unmet medical needs. So I think really just taking the time to really think and not making decisions based on fear and anxiety was something that really resonated with me and came out loud and clear.
Lori Cook, the CEO of the Healthcare Businesswomen's Association, also acknowledged these challenges and shared that it is absolutely critical to use a data-driven approach to inform decision-making and the need to be agile. Lori raised a point we should all be mindful of. As employees return to work, more women are choosing to stay home to balance the ongoing demands of their family.
Where were your major pivots from your perspective?
I do think that when you are running an association, you have to stay true to what your purpose is. So our purpose was to make sure we were keeping our eye on gender parity and equity. So we were looking for where were potential places where women may start to backslide. And at the top of this call, you brought that up. We were actually losing women from the workforce. And so we had to focus on that. And I think that gave our companies comfort that we were listening and we were giving guidance. We were on the watch out for that. But the other piece that we had to look for is the consistency an association brings to its membership. So when you think about, you move from perhaps company to company, what stays common is the association you belong to. So we needed to be there for the member and to not all of a sudden completely reinvent ourselves. We already had enough change in the system. So it's about what is it that really for your association, and in our case, we are collaborators, connectors, that feeling of radical hospitality. So we had to make sure we had the lines open for people to connect, talk about things, process things. And then in the murder of George Floyd, that became even more relevant. People just needed to connect and talk about it, process it, and then turn to and now what do I do?
This sets up a call to action to all our clients. How will you maintain equity in terms of mentorship and sponsorship opportunities and eligibility for promotions with more men physically present at work while women remain at home and continue to work? As you reflect on this question, remember that inclusive leadership is not a nice to have. It is a must have. Change, as we know, is something that is done to you. Transition is our response to the change, and leaders must shepherd their teams and individuals through the process. At WLH, our philosophy is that successful change needs to occur on 3 levels: the organizational, the team, and the individual level. You may have heard the proverb, "The shoemaker's children go barefoot." One popular interpretation is that the professional is so busy taking care of others' needs that they don't take care of their own and the people closest to them. This is something that you have to be very mindful of as organizations go through fundamental change and leaders need to guide their teams. My book, Change and Thrive, A Modern Approach to Change Leadership, is all about helping leaders effectively deal with change on a personal level, and enables them to guide their teams and individually successfully through transition. So as we close out this month and begin to transition, remember to take care of yourself, lead with empathy, ensure you build a culture of inclusiveness and equity, and remember that we're all human and go through change differently. I'm Dr. Wendy Heckelman. It's been wonderful this past month to talk to such spectacular women leaders, and I hope to see you next week.